Welcome to Driven to Lead, the leadership podcast dedicated to empowering current and emerging leaders throughout Cobb County. I'm Dr. Jackie McMorris, your host. This month, we'll be talking about Peter Sorotsky's book, Lead with Empathy. Elevate your leadership and management skills, build strong teams, and inspire lasting change in your business. Today, I'm joined by two incredible leaders from Cobb County, Dr. Jatunn Gibson, who's the Director of Public Services, and Ioana Bovo-Nicolescu, who's the Senior Services Director. Welcome, ladies. Together, we'll share how leading with empathy shows up in public service, team building, as well as creating a culture where people thrive. So let's dive in. All righty. So let's talk a little bit about leading with empathy. I just want to start with asking you, how did you choose this book? Why did you choose this one?
I think that out of all the leadership books that I've been reading lately, this one caught my eye. And I think that everything that we're doing in public services, you have to kind of be more in tune with those soft skills. And that's, in everyday life, in engaging with employees, but also with the individuals whom we serve every day. So I thought that this was just, there's a lot out there about leadership and how that looks like. But this one is just some simple things that can take someone to the next level.
Right. And I want to be clear that this isn't just about working with seniors as you do in senior service, right? We want to make sure that our leaders, all of our employees understand that this transcends working with those in the aging population. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So the author makes a very clear distinction between empathy and sympathy. Tell us a little bit about how this has changed your approach to leadership conversations that you have.
I think that sympathy is one thing. You can say, I'm really, really sorry for something, or I understand. But the empathy is taking that understanding to a different level and being able to even read between the lines and what is not said, and really have a deeper understanding without any sort of judgment.
Right.
And I think that when that happens, a deeper connection happens between people. And I think in leadership, that's where things start.
Right.
About connecting with individuals, about creating trust, which is huge. And empathy does that to me. And for me, I think it takes us to that.
So as you were exploring the book and deciding whether or not this is one you wanted to talk about on the podcast, talk a little bit about your aha moment. What was the biggest aha? Or did you have one when you were reading and go, never thought about it like that?
Yes. I think my aha moment for this was when it talks how empathy and emotional intelligence are so very linked together.
Yes.
And we talk a lot about them. We take a lot of classes and things like that about emotional intelligence is what that looks like. But empathy is that, again, taking it a step further. So having the understanding, but not being judgmental in any sort of way, and trying to really see things from the other person's perspective.
Yeah. Dr. Gibson, what about you?
So you ended with the word that I was going to use, perspective. Mine was, the book talks about perspective awareness. And that is, in the simplest form for me, it was everybody doesn't think like you think. We're not all universally the same. So the part where you have to be sympathetic as well as empathetic about Dr. McMorris's thoughts, Ioana's thoughts, the seniors' thoughts, co-workers' thoughts, that was an aha. It's like, wait a minute. She doesn't think like me because guess what? She's not me. And there's a big difference in your thoughts and my thoughts.
It's that frame of reference.
Yes.
We often talk about meeting people where they are.
Correct.
But we also have to be mindful of where they come from.
Absolutely.
And the experiences they've had. right? And that helps us to be a little bit more empathetic, we hope. Empathy is about doing as well, right? It's taking it from the cognitive, which we need, but also I understand and I feel how you feel. But beyond that, empathy is also, so what am I going to do about it to help this other person as they're going through whatever that is?
Right. Yes.
All right, let's talk about this. I found this very interesting. So, Dr. Gibson, I'm going to ask you. The author talks about understanding employees' personal challenges, and we recognize that employees come to work with personal baggage sometimes, right?
True.
I did not realize that the research shows that 80% of working caregivers provide some type of long-term care, and the average age of a caregiver is around 49 to 51. And a lot of our own team members and employees fall within that category. So in thinking about that, how do you think the book's empathy principles apply to supporting our employees when they're in that caregiving part of their lives? And a lot of employees are raising children, and they also are caring for parents who may be, right, going through things that now have reverted back to childlike tendencies.
Yes.
So as the employee, you're kind of here, you work all day, and you're also here. How do you all advise or work with employees who are experiencing that spectrum?
Yeah. So I'll start with that one as you ask, and then Ioana, you can jump in. We look at, you'll hear a lot of people, they call it the sandwich generation.
Yes.
You're in between two. So here's the bread and you're the meat. You're in between the two pieces. You also have to, I'll throw an additional piece in. We're also caring for our mates or our partners.
Yes. Yeah.
There are a lot of things that can happen. And that one thing I talk about is, do any of us plan for our care? We plan vacations. We plan for our children to go to school. But when is it that we plan for our care? So that's one point that we can bring out to our staff. Take the time to think about what happens to you if something happens to you. Who takes care of you? I'll just give a personal. We know next month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I'm a survivor of breast cancer. Because of my education and background and writing about caregiving as my dissertation, I knew to plan for my care. So what can we share with our coworkers that makes it easier? How can we be empathetic to those that are providing care? What resources do we offer here at Cobb from our human resources perspective to our employees to assist them with caring for others? We talk about that age range. Spoke with HR here, human resources. We have an overall average age here is 43. So we're right at the cusp there. So if you next year or two, you could possibly be that caregiver and have those children. And there's a lot of long-term long distance caregivers.
True.
So now that means long distance caregivers. Yes. Your parents may be in another country. Your parents may be here. They may be in another state. So what does that look like? So they're not around the corner where you can stop on your way home, but there are a lot of different categories of caregiving now that we must consider when we're talking about staff and keeping and retaining staff here.
And how does that play into our employees' mental health? I mean, if you think about it, right, you're always worried about or thinking about how your parents are doing or whomever it is you may be caregiving for, a grandparent or a sibling even.
Yes.
And you're bringing all of that with you on top of what you're going through at work. Talk a little bit about that.
I think that's we come from the old school of thought that said when you come to work, you have to leave all of that behind and not bring any baggage with you, to work. And the reality is so different. We are all human. You're not just this person that automatically can switch things off. And now I'm at work and not worry about, things. And I think to me, again, it starts with conversation. And I think that's why it leads back to the empathy piece, because, caring enough for our employees to say, hey, let's start a conversation. And maybe you are not at that point quite yet, but I want you to know that there are resources, in Cobb County that you can take advantage of, that you can come and talk to me, even to the mental health piece. If you're going through any sort of thing, there's no shame in that.
Right.
There's an openness to where people can feel comfortable that, hey, I am not going to be penalized in any shape or form
or
for going through things, or judged for carrying, that extra load.
Right. Alrighty. So the author talks about 3 empathetic leader traits.
Yeah.
They are active listening, perspective awareness, which Dr. Gibson brought up, and authenticity. These feel challenging for a lot of people, I'm sure. Which of these is challenging for you to implement consistently as a leader?
I think the authenticity is an easy one for me, because that's just me, and I'm a very open person, and I'm an open book, and I think I've worked very hard to be an active listener. I think the awareness piece, the situational awareness, is more difficult. Look, we come from all walks of life. I am lucky, and I love that I have a very diverse team. But with that comes different backgrounds. And I know myself, right? I come from Romania. I was not born and raised here. I came here as an adult. So that shapes, how I think in some respects and my upbringing. And so sometimes I have to stop and think, well, Dr. Gibson comes from a different, perspective.
Yes, Alabama is a little bit different.
And how
unlike Mississippi.
We tease each other all the time about being from Alabama and Mississippi.
Right.
But if we do not stop to say, even be aware that yes, we are going to think different. How do we come together, though, to collaborate and still have good communication and good progress on things?
And that requires being intentional.
Absolutely.
Because it may not just be instinctively intuitive to be aware.
Yes.
I think a lot of our employees, they drive in, they park, and they are in work mode. And we see and we don't see, we hear and we don't listen. And if we are intentional about it, sometimes it's just asking the question, how are you doing today, right now? Because people need to have a voice. They need to feel comfortable, as you said, in sharing what they're going through at work, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Gibson, the book claims that empathetic leadership directly improves our creativity, our productivity. Have you seen evidence of this in your leadership role?
Yes. Again, back to being intentional, though, as the leader, and I'll give you a shout out in this. We have to see that. We have to see it in front of us. And I think a lot of us receive that from you as well. So then it's a little bit easier for us to pass it on. So yes, there was a part in the book that talked about, and I know we may get to that or not, but it talked about the remote worker.
Right.
Now, we don't have a lot of people, directors working remotely, but as large as Cobb is, they are remote because they're not in the building with us. We don't see them every day. So that, correct. There's still that distance between us. So back to that point is, how does that look when we're empathetic to them in some of the tools that are given in the book? Constant communication. I notice when I do that, when I make myself intentional to just reach out and say, hey, how are you doing? So a check-in is better than a check-on.
That's right.
That's what I got from this. So I can see the difference when I'm just saying, hey, are you good? And I mean it, intentionally asking, are you okay? And we have that conversation. But back to your point, is building that relationship where I feel like we can have that conversation and you don't feel like I'm checking on you, but I'm checking in. So
it's
I
not
get
about
that
micromanaging, but
yes.
we're really taking that.
Yes.
Goes back to connecting.
Yes. Yeah.
And
you have to have that connection.
Everybody is going through the same thing in the same way.
Correct.
So the way that you respond to one employee as they're going through caregiving or other issues that may be going on in life, may not be the way that you respond to someone else who may be
Correct.
going through that, but just recognizing that it's happening and you're seeing it, being connected to your
Connecting.
employee or to your colleague is critical if we
It
want to be
is.
great leaders.
It is.
So the author makes empathetic leadership sound pretty easy, straightforward. We can do this. But what's the biggest barrier that you think that we as leaders face when we really are trying to implement these practices?
I think that the biggest barrier to me is what you said a little bit earlier, is that being intentional. And with that takes time. It takes a lot of energy. And so when you have those deeper connecting conversations, you have to be in that moment. You have to put things aside. You have to focus that energy. And if somebody is going through something, if there's a crisis, in their life or in the world, things like that, then that does take a lot of energy. And so with large teams, that becomes challenging sometimes.
Yeah. So we're getting close to our time, but I just want to ask a couple of other questions. How do you balance the advice in the book, showing up ready to work, but also showing empathy during tough conversations? We are either in one of three or more phases in the performance evaluation process, right? Once we set the goals, we think, we got them, but nope. Then we keep moving through that process of having courageous conversations, right? Progress discussions. So as you go through, just part of what we do as leaders, how do you implement those practices, and how difficult is it to have those conversations when we're talking about perhaps layoffs, suspensions, admin leave, all those kinds of things, and still be empathetic while being in your role as a leader?
Absolutely.
We got to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
And I think to me, it's separating the person from the issue a bit. So, when having those discussions, say, look, we're going to try to give you the tools, and then we try the progressive things, right? We try to give the tools so it would never be, a surprise if something were to come up. But still, I think that as leaders, we have to make it clear from the beginning and set the expectations that all of us are accountable for our jobs and what we're doing. And of course, if somebody is going through something and has, some circumstance that didn't allow them to do it, but it's also taking responsibility and then saying, yes, you know what? I have messed up on that. I will get better. I think the way you say things is the key. The approach. Because if people feel like they're going to be punished immediately, and I'm in the principal's office and I've been called in and I've done something wrong, then people shut down.
So what I hear you saying is there is a clear place for empathy.
Yes.
As leaders in the workplace, right?
Yes.
But it's also how we implement it, how we have those conversations with our colleagues as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So as we end, what is one thing, I'll ask each of you, one thing you would like to leave with our viewers or listeners today about the book, Lead with Empathy? What would you say is that one thing you found that you would like for everyone else, if nothing else, you would like for them to take away?
I think I would like people to take away, try to embrace empathy. Don't think necessarily, it's such a soft skill. And again, for our tough men and women in public safety, they think, this is not me. This is not how I communicate. It's not about that. It's not about, hugging each other and really, having therapy sessions, right? Although we'll take
There's a
one.
time and place
There's a
for
time
that.
and place
Right.
for that. But empathy to me is like that secret sauce, that little extra thing that you can put in the recipe to make it exceptional.
Right.
And so we have great leadership, in Cobb County, starting with you.
Well, thank you.
And we all see that and feel that. And I think that this, being a little bit more understanding and non-judgmental, is that
Right.
secret sauce. So,
Yeah. What about you, Doc?
A quick overview for, it's interesting that you said about being tough.
Yes.
If you don't think it applies at work, I've had the opportunity to discuss some of this with my sister. So this can be a personal as well as a professional read, and it also can help you in both ways.
Right.
That's my grab from it.
Thank you. I appreciate this conversation. It's so needed, probably today more than ever. So thank you. I appreciate that. So this wraps up our month's episode of Driven to Lead. A special thank you to both of you. Thank you for your insight, your leadership. I so appreciate that. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, share it with others, and by all means, please leave us a comment below. We'd love to hear what stood out to you most about our conversations today. So before I leave, I have to congratulate Lisa Williams, who's in our water system. She was last month's Driven to Lead swag bag winner. So you could be next. So just drop your thoughts in the comments and join us for the next conversation. My guest next month will be Melissa Arterio, our award-winning director of E911 Emergency Communications. So we'll be discussing the book, The Gift of Rejection. Can't wait to hear all about that. That's by Nona Jones. So again, thank you for listening. And remember, true leadership begins with empathy. Take care. Till next time.